All right, thanks everyone for joining us. We're just going to take a quick second to get Facebook Live running. So bear with us for just a moment.
Hello to those of you that are there.
Yes, hello.
This is the awkward quiet moment where we cross our fingers that Facebook Live decides to work today. And I think we're almost there. And you know what? It doesn't seem to be working just now. So we're going to get started with everything else, and I will continue to tinker with Facebook Live in a moment, okay?
Okay.
So, as usual, we always like to begin our Not at the Museum Thursday night programming with a land acknowledgement. The Niagara region of Ontario is located on the traditional shared territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Chinootan peoples. The Chinootan people have called these lands home for thousands of years, and more recently, the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee have been sharing the land as one dish, one spoon treaty territory. Tonight at the museum, or in your living rooms rather, we continue our digital coming out stories journey for 2021. This is our third year of running the coming out stories series, which are evenings designed for the LGBTQ plus and straight communities alike. Each night we welcome a different special guest to share their personal experiences coming out to their families and communities, and I'm thrilled that the museum has been seen as an ally and a safe space to help facilitate these much needed conversations in the Niagara region. So thank you so much for joining us. Just a little warning, this program offers an open dialogue about gender and sexuality, so please note there may be references of a sexual nature during the conversation. As usual, I would love to introduce the person responsible for these series and our host for the night, Falynn Shaw.
Hello, Christine. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Tonight, I'd like to introduce to you Lorenzo Cromwell. He is a deacon with St. George's Anglican Church in the Diocese of Niagara. He is one of many who work with the 2S LGBTQIA community. Welcome, Lorenzo.
Well, good evening, Falynn. So good to be a part of all this. Yeah.
So it's so good to finally have you.
I know.
We were
It's been a
supposed to have you
while.
in 2020, but we all know what that was like.
Oh,
But we made it happen, and this is the important part.
the evening is here.
It's here.
It's amazing. Yeah, I've been watching the dates go by and like, okay, we're getting close. So
Yeah.
excited for this.
I was just
Yes.
happy that it's actually happening. We didn't have to cancel or anything because
I know.
I really wanted to have you on the show. So thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite. Glad to be a
Yes.
part of all this.
You were one of the first people I have ever asked.
I know. I remember the day, actually. I remember that day when we were all out there together.
Well,
That
I
one-
said your voice is something very special and it needs to be shared with many people. And then you told me a bit about your story and I said, okay, well then this is what it has to happen for sure.
Yeah, I've been told I have a radio voice. I don't have the
You have a
face,
melodic
but I have a
voice.
radio voice.
It's very you don't have a radio face. You're handsome.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so how do we begin? Just start chatting, talking about stuff?
I think that we told people a little bit about what you do. You're in the Niagara region. You do work with the 2S LGBTQIA community. Maybe let's go from there. Let's talk a little bit about what you've been doing during the pandemic so far. Like how has what you do changed?
Well, during the pandemic, it changed a lot of things for anyone as clergy, actually. It's made it very difficult for us to make contact with people. You know, the usual visitations, you know, going to nursing homes or talking to people at church and so forth. It just doesn't happen because at church most of the time now, it is a case of maybe 5 people. You know, those that are running the video equipment and those doing the music, and those conducting the service. And so very small groups.
A lot has changed, that's for sure.
Yeah. So for me, I was, prior to this, I was in St. James, St. Brendan's Anglican Church in Port Colborne, and quite involved with the community there, and also with the LGBT community without, throughout all of Niagara. And forgive me if I don't say all the letters.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
But I do like putting the two at the end. Yeah.
It just rolls off my tongue now. So but, that's fine.
But involved with the Niagara Men's Network, Gay Men's Network that met at Matte's here in St. Catharines downtown. And also,
let's say hello to Chris. Chris, you are doing an amazing job at that cafe.
Yeah.
Matte's, amazing.
Matte's is a great supporter. Also, Dunnville Pride.
Yes.
3 years we did that, and they invited me actually to be one of their hosts and presenters, and that was a hoot. That was a lot of fun. They call me now the Dancing Deacon, because I got up there and we had this wonderful music and so forth, and it was just talking about how I can't help be who I am, and then the song came on, and be free, yeah. And so did a little dancing on the stage, and well accepted, which is nice.
As it should be. I know a lot of things about you, but I did not know you were a dancer. So
well, hey,
that's something to add to the
not
list.
A professional, that's for sure. But so also involved with the Senior Pride Network, being out to several of their meetings. Needed. Very needed. And as I get older, I'm going, whoa, I might be getting things prepared for myself in this respect too. So, on a selfish note, it's a good thing as well. But
it's getting better, right?
It's getting better. Yeah. So I'm very, very happy to be able to have the opportunities that have been given to me, because it's such a life change for me to go from being a part of a church for 32 years that was anti-gay, that did not promote diversity or difference in sexual orientation whatsoever. So that was hard. And the interesting thing is that all through my time as a minister, closeted minister.
Yeah, let's go back for a second so people know what we're talking about. So we're going back to when you were a minister.
Yes.
At a church.
At another church.
And this church was located, was it in Ontario, here in the Falls?
Yes, I was a part of the Churches of Christ.
Okay.
And I ministered in Ottawa, Sarnia, Fenwick, and Beamsville.
Okay.
And each one was about 8-9 years or so. And so I think some things have changed with them. I mean, they're a little more respectful of people and their diversities. But
during your experience, it was not that way.
No, definitely not. So I'm going to go back into some past then, and we'll walk forward. I have to say that I believe that from a fairly young age, I knew I was gay. I mean, a lot of people will debate on whether or not a person has that ability to understand or know, but I knew. I definitely knew. And I have to say right up front that whatever I say tonight is my personal opinion on things. It's not,
of course,
not the understanding of what the church's stand is on things or other organizations. I just am speaking from my point of view. So at a young age, I knew things were different. It wasn't anything that was talked about. At the age of 12, there was some family situations and a possible divorce and so forth with my parents, and it didn't happen, but a lot of hardships. And so they shipped us boys off to summer camp so they could, work things out. And so I went to Crystal Springs Christian camp in Selkirk. And at the age of 12, I remember taking my little red New Testament that the Gideons used to give everybody. I think it was grade 5 or 6 you received these. And we were encouraged, if we wanted to read through the front part of it and then sign our name. And it was a commitment to God and to Christ. And so I made that commitment really early on at the age of 12. And then when I came back from the camp, I made the decision I have to go to church. And my parents didn't go to church, but there was a little Baptist church down the street, and I went there. And it was a good experience. I felt there was the extended family that I needed. And remained with them for a little while. And then my grandmother, who was a Seventh-day Adventist, a very strict Seventh-day Adventist, and she thought it was time for me to learn what was true. And so off to church I went with her on Saturdays. Oh, talk about
my grandfather was actually one too, so I know.
Yeah. So talk about messing up a kid. You go from one thing to another, and then with the Seventh-day Adventists, of course, you also many become vegetarians, and I became a vegetarian for a while, and I went off to their private school, but all this time being closeted as a young person, not saying anything to anyone, and you would hear things, Bible passages would be read that said, homosexuality is a sin. Specifically, 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 9, that says, homosexuals will not enter the kingdom of heaven. Whoa! So that really blows you away.
That would have rocked you as a little kid hearing that.
Yeah. So, but, and then understanding what that was. So I was with them for 9 years growing up. And in high school, I met up with some Church of Christ people and became friends and went to church with them. And eventually decided that I was going to go into their Bible school, religious program, and become a minister. And so I did that. I left a job working as an electrical draftsman apprentice and went off to the Bible college. During those times, I was really struggling because, as a young person, you have attractions, but you can't live out those attractions. You can't even present yourself in any way as being anything but straight. And also during that time, I did a lot of reading, a lot of study. And there was one book that was out there written by Tim LaHaye. And I think I'm going to be presenting a few of these things for people to take a look at
Well,
some
thank you so
point.
much for doing that.
Yeah.
Lorenzo, do you know, I don't know if I told you that I grew up in church as well.
Yes, you did mention that. Yes.
Right from as a child, as a baby. And some of the things you're saying, you know, they're resonating with me as well. And it is a very difficult time if you are trying to become something, but knowing that what you are, if they really knew, would they still want you? It's a very, very hard thing to deal with.
You would lose your community, you would lose your family, you would lose it all. And many people have.
Yes.
And I'll speak on that to the point that I did as well, but later in life. Yeah, he wrote a book and it was called The Unhappy Gays, What Everyone Should Know About Homosexuality. And I read the book cover to cover because I wanted to know, I wanted to understand, you know, what's going on with this person who I am, you know, can I change? I mean, that's exactly what the book seemed to present, that we needed to change. And I mean, this man pulled from 3 other writers. One of the writers was Anita Brandt.
Wow.
And then also from John White, Eros Defiled, you know, all about love being not as it should be. And so, but LaHaye's disgust for gays comes through on every page. And so you get to the point where you have a self-loathing, a self-hate. And that self-loathing and self-hate was with me, you know, I would say most of my life. I recall during this time, probably in my 20s, every single night, I'm just going to be personal here, every night, just rolling and facing the wall and crying and saying, God, why not change me? Why not, you know? And then I come to find out that that's what Hezekiah, the prophet Hezekiah, did the very same thing with God, just, you know, turned his face to the wall and cried.
It's a battle.
It is a battle. And I think all of us that are from the LGBTQ plus community understand that battle, and we've all felt that hurt. And in his book, what he presented was that homosexuals who want to change can marry and set in motion a chain reaction in which heterosexual experience gradually increases their ability to experience heterosexual pleasures. And so what do? I decide, well, I need to seek marriage. And I married my best friend. And we were together for 27 years. So this book almost destroyed me. And I'm sure that many others in the 1970s and 80s who read that book, who were looking for some type of answer, were being ripped apart inside. And feeling all that shame, the guilt, feeling that you're an abomination with God, and trying desperately to change. And so, you know, even parents with children who would come forth as being gay, they would say that they would rather their child died than adopt an unhappy, wretchful homosexual life. That's what he writes on page 157. So also there was that belief that, you know, we're out there recruiting people to be gay. Yeah. And that
further from the truth.
Yeah. We're out there recruiting, you know, rah, become, you know, a homosexual with me. And his belief was that if they could stop that, then we would become extinct. That, you know, because we don't propagate. So, hey, we'd become extinct. So this was a real dagger driven in the hearts of gay people. And I think that during that time, a lot of evangelical churches and other churches, what happened is that they decided that, what are we going to do with these young people that are coming forth as and showing that they're non-binary? What are we going to do with them? Well, let's see if we can put them in some type of program and change them. Conversion therapy or reparative therapy is what it's called. And, you know, it was a Joseph, what's his last name? Nicolasai and Elizabeth Mulberry both had this idea of therapeutic cure, you know, for people who were homosexuals. And so they were trying all different ways of doing so. And I remember very plainly in my mid to late 20s, the fear, a tremendous fear of anyone finding out, because at that time, you could have been hospitalized and electrotherapy could have been used upon you. And if any of you have ever seen movies and such where they show electrotherapy, it's horrendous.
Horrible.
And so, you know, as a 20-year-old, there's no way I was going to breathe a word about that. So finally, you know, doing everything that I felt God wanted and the church wanted, and that was, you know, to be straight, I had to try and live as such. So yeah, get married. Got married fairly late in life, age of 29. That's not so late anymore, actually, because people are getting married later now, isn't it? It's more normal. But back then, I mean, hey, if you didn't get married by you were 22, 23 years of age, then what's going on? But yeah, and then directly, I wanted to get involved into, you know, one of these organizations that would cure me. And it was, you know, pray the gay away. I prayed and prayed and prayed. And even as a child, I remember praying, you know, God, change me. And yeah, we've all felt that.
Many times actually.
Yeah. And so I went to online and found, you know, I called and I found an organization called Exodus International, which it was their mandate to go out and bring people from the homosexual lifestyle to a heterosexual lifestyle. And they believed that they could cure people. Well, there wasn't an Exodus chapter in Ontario, but there was another organization called New Directions. And New Directions is what I contacted. And I was with them. I have to make a correction here. It wasn't actually 15 years, it was 13 years.
Okay.
And, you know, but those years became so blurry. I mean, even preparing for tonight, it's like walking through a fog into the distance and going back into the past and re-examining things. And as we all know, when we have to go back into the past of hurtful things, it can be stressful and hard. I'm just being honest about it.
I thank you though for being able to come speak about this, because this is not something that is easy for you. I'm sure.
It's not really, but it's necessary, especially right now when we're talking about, you know, banning conversion therapy and so forth. It needs to be banned all over the world. It has to stop. It is abuse. It is abuse. I mean, there are those who say, well, hey, what if somebody wants it? You're going to stop them from having it. If it wasn't there, then it wouldn't happen. If those organizations, and there are people right now, people that I know, who I know of a person who's running an organization. And, you know, that organization, I'll just tell you, it's called Strength in Weakness. And they've changed their tune a little bit, but they're still an ex-gay organization. They believe that, you know, anyone that's non-binary needs to be celibate, that they are never to have any relationships except for heterosexual relationships. And I'm sure there's individuals who, you know, have been deeply hurt by that. But going back to New Directions, I was involved with them. I went to monthly meetings, and they were meetings of shame. You know, you were told that, you know, this is something that has happened to you because you've chosen it. As a child, chose this? No. I mean, who would choose? Who would choose, you know, a life of feeling afraid, of loving or trying to express love that is not acceptable in your society? Who would choose that? So, I mean, there was all kinds of shame, and a lot of Bible passages, of course, were thrown at us. And there's 6 or 7 passages in the Bible that we call the clobber passages, that, you know, they are used against any non-binary person. And there's an excellent book done by Colby Martin, and it's called Unclobber.
Okay.
Excellent book. If you know, want to read about these Bible passages and so forth, and see how there's been mistranslations, misunderstandings concerning what the scriptures have said there. I mean, let me make this very plain. 1948 was when the first time the word homosexual was ever placed in the Bible, in one place. And that was with the Revised Standard Version. In 1948, a team of translators sat down, and they were trying to translate the Bible, and they were going through different passages, and they made that decision that the word would be homosexual.
Wow, it's not even
yeah, the word is, if I can say it correctly, my Greek is not that good. I took Greek in seminary, but oh, it killed me. Arsenokonai, okay? And it shows up in 2 different verses in the Bible, in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 9, and also in 1 Timothy. And the research team, what they did was they looked at that word and they said, well, we think it means homosexual. And so in that one place, in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 9, they changed it to that. From that moment on, other translators have looked at the Bible and said, oh, they translated as such. And so they went to other passages and changed arsenokonai into homosexual. And so now we have translations like the New International Version and others that use this word and put the word homosexual. That's not what the word ever meant. In the old German translations, okay, this is what it said. It said, boy molesters will not inherit the kingdom of God. An abuser. That's really what it's talking about. Very different.
Very different.
Of course, you know, any of us who have a love for God and love for Christ and love for the church understand that people who abuse are doing wrong. We know that innately. anybody who abuses someone else, especially a child, that the creator of the universe is not going to be happy with that. But to change that word and make it homosexual, what that did is it has caused pain for us throughout the decades.
So much hatred.
And so much hatred that still exists. Because you know what? People won't do the due diligence to do the research to know what that really means. And if you tell them, they're like, well, no, these people must have translated it correctly. You know, they won't accept your word for it. But I find myself see myself as a bit of a historian, and I really love history. And so I will research stuff, and I'll go back into the past and see what things were. And the more I did that, the more I saw that this was the case, that we have been damaged and hurt because individuals didn't do the due diligence. They didn't do the study, and they mistranslated.
Because of that, so many people lives have been devastated and
destroyed. Yeah.
Destroyed. And families just completely broken up.
Ripped apart. And people have went through reparative therapy because of a misunderstanding concerning scriptures. You know, and then they'll go, oh, well, what about Sodom? You know, well, Sodom and Gomorrah, those places, you know, that was horrific. But let's really get into the context again. That was a military thing. I mean, that still happens in places where male rape happens. Okay, I'm sorry for anybody that's got children listening right now. But
we did do a disclaimer. So
yes, we did. Yes, but I mean, that's really what was going on. Yeah. It was the men of the city were going to say, "Hey, you newcomers, we're going to show you who you are, who we are. We're in charge here." And then nothing's mentioned about Lot, who says, "Here, let me give you my 2 daughters who have never been with a man." Nobody talks about that.
That kind of stuff happened more often.
And I mean, that's just as disgusting as the other.
It is.
Anyway, a wonderful author, Kathy Baldock, has written a book called Walking the Bridgeless, it's probably backwards, sorry. The Walking the Bridgeless Canyon, okay? And she has put together a fabulous book that explains how all of this has come about. I mean, it has a lot to do with men wanting to have power, to be honest. Power over women, power over anyone who is not seen as a man. And so if you're different in any way, then, you know, you were to be seen as less. So anyway, a part of that reparative therapy, that's month after month after month, I would go to these sessions, and we were being taught, you know, the men, I mean, it was just men in our group, we were being taught, you know, how to sit. Don't cross your legs. Oh, if you're going to look at your nails, look at them this way, not this way.
Oh my gosh.
We were, you know, taken into a gymnasium to play some team sports. We were, you know, told that the major reason, the psychological reason for us being gay is because of a fracture or a distancing with our fathers. And so that's what they were going to do. They were going to repair that and show that there could be a a good relationship with other males, and it wouldn't have to be a sexual one. So all of this went on year after year after year. And it does take a toll on people. I personally know of a few that never survived, who took their lives because they couldn't handle it. I know of others who have said they're now cured, they're straight. You know, this conversion therapy, I did a little bit of research on it, and 8.4 times more people are more likely to commit suicide. 698,000 LGBTQ plus people have received conversion therapy in the US. I would estimate probably a 10% of that would be Canadian, like 70,000. I would say that number have probably went through conversion therapy in Canada.
How many people do you think did it on their own without having influence from their family?
I would think so. I don't know what the numbers would be, but I mean, I did it on my own without having family saying, hey, go do this. But for me, it was motivated by church.
Yeah.
And, you know, it gets to the point where people hate the church, hate God, hate Jesus even, because, you know, how dare you, you know, allow this sort of thing happen to me? Or, you know, where were you, God, when I was going through all this? There's even times, and I'm honest about this, even times when there are certain hymns that are sung that really bother me, because it's a trigger back to some of those times. But you know, it wasn't God who did this. It wasn't Jesus who did this. It was people who, either because of wanting to, you know, be more powerful than others and lord themselves over others, or, you know, want only their way of life to be part of the culture, that have caused this. And those who have not done their due diligence in research.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say that, you know, many times we ministers and so forth, we can be a little lazy when it comes to that. We can be, when we, you know, you don't study it all. You just listen to what the church tells you. You just listen to what others tell you, and you just keep the culture going rather than asking the questions. And it's wonderful that the creator of the universe loves us to ask questions, loves to be asked why, and wants to give us those answers. I think it's a beautiful thing when we consider the First Nations people of this country, you know, and the Two-Spirit.
Yes.
I think the Two-Spirit really exemplifies what we really are. We're not black, white. We're colorful. We're glorious. We're wonderful. We are to be, you know, accepted as not the norm. and need to take some pride in that. There's a word that most older gay men can't stand, and that's the word queer. Because we grew up with it. You know, somebody's calling you queer. Whereas now it is a reclaimed word. And a lot of people, you know, talk about queer theology and their queerness and being able to, you know, take great pride in it. And I think that's beautiful. You know, you walk through a garden. Aren't you glad it's colorful? Aren't you glad it's queer? It's strange and wonderful. That's what you want. That's what the Creator made. Made a world that's beautiful and colorful and different.
And meant to be celebrated for its diversity.
Yes, celebrate it. So, you know, it's when the first settlers came to North America, in every single village, there was a two-spirit person. In every village they came there was a gay male wearing women's clothing, or a gay female wearing men's clothing. But that was in every village.
And they were admired by the other people in the village.
Absolutely.
They were revered. People loved them.
Revered. As a matter of fact, you were a great chief if you had a wife and you had a two-spirit person as a wife. You were allowed to have two wives.
You were as rich as a king like that. And
exactly.
It's changed. Can I ask you a question? We're getting into a little bit of the time, but so obviously you can see that I've been a little emotionally affected by some of the things you said. I don't know how anybody who's listening couldn't be. Can we kind of talk about what happened when you were ready to come out and how tell us a little bit of what that was like?
It was very abrupt. It happened very quickly. I had remained in the closet till 2012. And then a lot of things changed, divorce and so forth, and separation. And at that time, I lost my position with the church, of course. I didn't have the same contact even with family. I was destitute. I had no money. I was, as a matter of fact, sat before a Christian counselor who was filling out a form as I was talking to her, and she turned it around and said, "I need you to sign this." And I said, "Well, what am I signing?" She says, "Well, this is to state that you are homeless and you'll get some help." The first time in my life where I was homeless. And it was gay friends who stood beside me and helped me, who brought me meals, who took me in, let me do some couch surfing, and also, you know, just hearing me and listening to me. And coming out was not an easy thing. It was very difficult. And I recall walking in the forest, screaming and saying, "If this is gay, it's not right. It's not fun. I don't like being gay." You know, I was mad about it. But with all of those wonderful friends, and also with a great church. I have to put in a plug in here for, I contacted the Niagara Diocese of the Anglican Church and said, I'm moving to Niagara Falls, and can you let me know where there's an accepting church I can go to? Because I knew that the Anglican Church was, a lot more understanding and accepting. And they said, yes, go to St. George's. So I went to St. George's and, loved and cherished and seen as a vital part of the congregation. And that's the way it is with me right now.
Oh,
Here at St. George's, I am loved and cherished, and I am
yes, you are.
held and loved as someone who, I have a work. And isn't it amazing that my work has become what was closeted before, what was so much of a pain for me before? That's now my work. So, there is a God, and he works in mysterious and wonderful ways.
I'm just glad that you held on and you kept going, because like you said, there are a lot of people that didn't make it through, and I'm just so proud that you're doing what you do.
Yeah, but and that's all that I want to do is give people some hope too, and say, hey, you may have had some bad experiences with church, and what you envisioned as God and so forth. You may have had some bad experiences and so forth, but God hasn't given up on you. As a matter of fact, I know our time is just about up, but
okay.
Sister Unity, okay, look her up sometime. Sister Unity is a cross-dressing nun, okay? And I just love her hymn, whatever. I don't know what.
Sister Unity.
Okay. Sister Unity, okay, and YouTube. And she does this talk about berdache, and that is the old French term for a two-spirit person. And it's a reclaimed word. And actually, during the early years, it was a word that would be equated to faggot. Okay, if you call somebody a berdache, it wasn't a very nice thing. But anyway, she talks about it. And one of the things she says at the end, I love it. She says, when she's talking about us as non-binary individuals, we are a natural fabric of the universe. The reason why we do not go away is because we're a part of nature.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for tonight.
Oh, you're welcome.
I'm sure.
If anybody wants to study some more and wants Bible passages to talk about, I'd love to do that with them.
Well, we're going to share your information with everyone so that if they do need to get a hold of you, or they know of somebody that could use some help. I just really appreciate what you're doing. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
All right, everyone. I want to thank you. And we're going to bring Christine back on quickly. And I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight.
Hi everyone, Christine here. So as you can see, we're sharing on the screen right now Lorenzo's email in case you wanted to get into direct contact with him. So deaconlorenzo1@gmail.com. And Lorenzo has also recommended Out Niagara as another amazing LGBTQ plus support organization in the Niagara community that is wonderful and helpful. So that is on the screen there. So please jot that down if you'd like to get a hold of Lorenzo or Out Niagara.
Thank you so much, Christine.
And I just, before we leave, I just want to thank Lorenzo as well. Thank you so much for being so incredibly vulnerable and open and honest and sharing with us this necessary dialogue on the dangers of reparative therapy. So thank you so, so much for
You're
coming and
welcome.
sharing your voice here for the Coming Out Story series. I think that a lot of people who have joined us tonight on Zoom and on Facebook Live have just been really, truly touched by your
Including myself.
honesty. Yeah. So thank you so, so much, Lorenzo.
Oh, you're very welcome. Glad for the opportunity.
Have a great night, everyone.
Bye,
Good night.
everyone.
Bye-bye now.